Hey guys, this is Bo. We're back in the house again. Listen, man, hockey season is officially kicked off. I've got colleges coming online, and you know what? Bill's back in the house from Abel to Iserman. How you doing?
Oh, how are you?
Good, man. Good. Real busy. I'm sure you're like going crazy right now.
Yeah, it's getting pretty hectic. Most of the camps are broken. Everybody's heading back to their hometowns and, or at least their home cities. And this is where the real training begins, I guess, is where the practices get a little more serious. You know, those the camps are good. And I guess it's good for chemistry and things like that. And more importantly than that, in the Wings case in Traverse City, it gives the management a lot of opportunity to see some of the younger kids. But, you know, where the Red Wings are concerned, there may be two open spots. You know, it's not exactly a high-pressure situation for a lot of the veterans. Now, the serious stuff starts where they get a lot of the practice in, they get to work on specialty teams, and you start seeing some exhibitions like we're going to see tomorrow night in Minnesota.
Yeah, and I think the buzz is starting to come back for hockey. I feel it when I interviewed a guy called Jamie Russell over at Michigan Tech, and you can just hear it in his voice. You can hear it from Coach Cole. It's in his voice. He feels it. It just seems like hockey's starting to come around. As the temperatures start dipping, everybody starts thinking hockey.
I think that's true. I think as the climate changes and it starts getting a little chilly, I think the natural thing is to start thinking about hockey.
Now, what do you see? Now, who's going to be the dominant person on the Red Wings that's going to step up and take over officially Yzerman's position?
Well, you're talking about the captaincy now, and I think that Nick Lidstrom has done a great job. This will be his second year as captain for the Red Wings, and he's a much different. Well, he's a different type of guy than Yzerman was. Yzerman was probably a little more quietly fiery than Nick Lidstrom was, and he had that intensity about him that was pretty obvious for everybody to see. I don't think that Lidstrom has that type of persona to him, but he's still a good leader, you know, and he's been a good captain for the Wings, and I think he will be as long as he wants to stay with the Red Wings. And who knows how long that's going to be. But the captain in wait is Henrik Zetterberg. There is no question about it. Everybody knows it. Zetterberg will be the captain of the Red Wings whenever Nick Lidstrom decides to step down.
And actually, the good news is that, well, up front, polls don't count, but the Red Wings are perceived to be a runner-up again. They're pretty seemed in good light right now.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are picking the Red Wings to finish high in the conference, which is fine. If you remember back to last year, nobody picked the Red Wings to reach the conference finals because the Red Wings going into the season last year had a deserved reputation of being a soft team, and Mike Babcock changed that. And I'll tell you, this year he's changed it even more with the addition of Dallas Drake, and you are going to see that teams are going to play the Red Wings a little differently when they know that Drake is going against them because he has a well-earned reputation as a guy who will not put up with anything, especially with the other team taking liberties with players that the Wings can put out there like Zetterberg and Datsuk. You see anybody take a run at Datsuk, and I will bet you that Dallas Drake has the next shift.
Yeah, and tell me now, as far as the shift being set up, are they pretty much all set on who's going to be in where, in what position, and what their what the design's going to be?
There's a couple spots up for grabs right now, and that's probably the seventh defenseman spot, or it could be even the fourth. There's a guy named Brent Sopel who's trying out for the Red Wings. He's in his 10th year in the NHL. And no, actually his 7th year in the NHL, and he is an offensive defenseman. And what I mean by that is he can blast the puck. He has a great slap shot. He's very offensive-minded, but he's a liability on defense. And that is a decision that Ken Holland, the GM of the Red Wings, and Mike Babcock have to make, whether they are actually willing to overcome or overlook Sopel's deficiencies and put him on the roster. The safe bet is to put a kid there by the name of Derek Meach, who's very responsible defensively, and put him in the lineup or put him as the 7th defenseman and let him learn from the big guys up there. But there's definitely some bickering going back and forth as to whether Brent Sopel should make the team. I think he probably will. I think he will because the Red Wings are missing a little bit from their blue line when they lost Matthew Schneider, who, by the way, is out for 4 weeks with Anaheim with an ankle injury. But Sopel probably will be added to the team. Another thing to look at, there's a couple other people trying out for the Red Wings. One is Aaron Downey. He's a veteran, and he's a fighter. And the Red Wings are now trying to determine whether or not they need that kind of player on the roster since they've added Dallas Drake. And I'm telling you, Aaron Downey has zero offensive ability whatsoever. If they add him to the roster, it will be for one reason only, and that is to kick some butt if needed. and that is it, and that is all. So the Red Wings have to make a decision, and that is based on organizational history, which says they haven't had a place for a player like that since Bob Probert. And so now the decision time is coming, and if they choose to, Aaron Downey could fill that role. But I don't know if they are comfortable giving up a roster space for a player who is so one-dimensional. So those are two decisions that have to be made in Detroit before October 3rd when we open up with Anaheim.
I think it'd be a good move to have some muscle.
I knew you'd say that. I freaking knew you'd say that, Bo.
I think you know the players in and out, and write them off. I'm sitting back as a fan watching it, and I know last year we did a much better job hitting, but when Mike Carolina was out roughing the Red Wings, there had to be something changed there. And I know what you're saying about the Red Wings were hitting, but they just need to have an enforcer like Van Dorp with the Edmonton. They need to have somebody out there that will guard and protect, and the other squads have no idea what's going on. I just feel comfortable having somebody like that on the squad. Yes, it's one-dimensional, but I just think it's sort of like in football, possessions. You got to play possessions. You got to put somebody out there that's going to stop and make the big hit when you need it.
Bo, you're talking like a traditionalist, and I understand and respect that. But that role is going away from hockey. It is, and it's unfortunate, but it just is. The Dave Semenkos who protected Wayne Gretzky and the Bob Proberts who protected Steve Yzerman, their roles in the game are not necessarily as valued as they used to be. And like I said, I agree with you. They brought something to the game that not only brought the fans in, but also added a dimension to hockey that couldn't be seen in any other sport, where if someone takes liberty on the ice, if somebody throws an elbow, gets a stick up, hits somebody from behind, then they can expect to be run, literally run the next shift. And but it's just not there anymore. And hopefully it comes back. Hopefully, not necessarily the dirty tactics, some would call them dirty, but at least the harder edge of hockey. And that's really what separates our game from the rest, is that there is that flair and that possibility of violence and possibility of, frankly, retribution on every shift. And I think that brings something to the game that we can all appreciate. We'll see if it comes back. I don't know. You can see that, and you look for it in places like Washington, and you look for it in places like Pittsburgh, where we have two young stars like Alexander Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby, who, if somebody goes after them, you better believe that someone is going to pay. And that places like that, in towns like that, it's needed. We'll see if it's needed in Detroit. With Dallas Drake on the roster, I think that we're going to see a lot fewer people taking runs at Hank Zetterberg and Nick Lidstrom, who never gets hit anyways. But, it's something to consider. I don't think Aaron Downey's going to make the roster. I don't think he brings enough. But definitely, he's making it a tough decision on the Red Wings management, because aside from his fighting ability, he's full of hustle. And Mike Babcock likes that. He definitely does.
Well, Mike Babcock has definitely established himself as a Red Wing this past season. I'm not one of the ones that freak out when the Tigers lose a few games. I get a little nervous when we get towards the end of the season, because, to be honest with you, I don't care if we're a wild card or we're number one seed. As long as we win our games, that's all I care about. That's the bottom line in the playoffs, is just make the playoffs. So if the Red Wings falter in the beginning, I'm not going to fall off the bandwagon, because I know they can pull it together, because it's a freaking long season, as you know.
Yeah, it is, and we'll see. The Red Wings have a strong team. They play 32 games against the dregs of the NHL, and that is the division that Gary Bettman created, which is the NHL Central Division. It's a horrible division. St. Louis is horrible. Columbus is horrible. Chicago's not much better. Nashville used to be good, but now their ownership has ensured that they're mediocre as well. And those are the teams that the Red Wings have to compete with in their division, and they will have no problem winning it. But the problem with that is that Red Wing fans have to put up with 32 games against those other teams, and they are just boring, mediocre at best teams. And it's a horrible situation that Bettman has created with the way that the schedule goes, where we don't see original six teams, but we see Columbus 8 times a year. It's pathetic.
Awesome. Listen, we're going to tune in next week. We're going to get you back on again. Each week we're going to get more detail, and I'm going to have a whole line of questions to help artfully talk about where we're going to be in the season as it kicks off. We'll tune in next time, Bill.
Sounds good, Bill. Thanks.
Hey, Abel Yzerman, I'm telling you, this guy's on the point right there with Red Wings hockey. Take care, everybody. All right, man.
All right, Bill. Sounds good, man.
Thank you, dude.